Fellow, let's give it a round of applause for Hank Richardson.
Thank you, Ray. Well, I see lots of friendly faces in the audience this morning, a lot of people I know in the community, and then a lot I've never seen. And so, you know, I travel a good bit. This is like a sinking little podium here. You keep looking at your notes and they keep going away from you. And I travel a good bit, and one morning I flew back into Atlanta. Can everyone hear me okay back there? Okay. I flew back into Atlanta after being out of town. And you know how it is when you fly back into Hartsfield International, chaos is king on the best day. And you get off the plane and that hustle, and then you have to ride down to the baggage, and you have to get your bags, and you're hoping all the while that you're not forgetting something, and then you have to go and you find your car. I mean, this sounds like a story, right? And then you pay the parking guy, and you rush out of the airport into bumper traffic, and sort of a pilgrimaging back into the city. And then you go to your office, and you get there, and you're trying to open the door and balance a Starbucks in the same hand, and you're already thinking, if you can just kind of picture this, you're already thinking about 10 people in the meetings that you've got in front of you, and so everything's really chaotic. And when you're traveling, and then you come back to something, so you have a sense of expectation of what you're going to find, sort of. So not so long ago, having just returned from several days out of town, and that scenario that I just described playing out, I entered my office, and I was surprised to find it covered, literally covered, in stickies. Well, and so little sticky notes, little yellow squares of paper everywhere, on every surface, and in the many bookshelves and the walls, my desk, my chair, picture frames, the Happy Meal toys that I keep all over. I mean, I'd been punked, royally. And so every one of those notes that you see there had written on it hundreds of quotes that I've repeated to students for over 30 years that I've taught. And there'd been a lot of behind the scenes going on there. And those are words that have inspired me personally over time, and words that I like to share, and that I do, and quite often, for those of you who may know me. And but I was shocked by the sight, and then I was impressed, at the same breath, by the thought of the planning and the downright sneakiness involved in pulling that stunt off. And I wondered first, like you probably would, who did that and why? And was I giving the students enough work? You know, and so, because someone obviously had too much time to spare. And once I discovered the main identity of the chief prankster, I was shocked all over again. She was probably the most reserved, most unassuming person in the house. Probably the last person that I would have suspected, and it's always the quiet ones, isn't it? And what struck me though was this: she'd been listening all those mornings over almost 2 years, and sitting solidly at the table amongst the class clowns and the hot dogs, and moleskin notebook in front of her, and me probably resisting an urge to throw a wad of paper at her or make her sing to us. And I mean, I was worried or that she might be feeling overwhelmed as she was listening. She was listening, taking it all in, filing the information away, and evidently plotting too. And so sometimes I think that we all get ourselves into little routines. And whether we're teachers or designers or artists or communicators, we get ourselves into those little routines of all sorts, or even parents. And we forget that every time, often, that when we meet someone or we see someone again, every time we design an ad, every time we design something, an image, or we send a message, that is an opportunity we have to recognize that what we say and do matters, and that it actually really can influence and it can inspire, or it can hurt and it can discourage. All those opportunities are important. So it's important to be mindful and to not let those things simply pass us by in a context. I have a friend, Diana, who whenever you see her, she's one of those people, whenever you see her, that whether it's been a couple months or a year, it's like, hey, Hank, and as if you were just the person she wanted to see, as if she'd been waiting to see you forever, and as if merely laying eyes on you made her day complete. And you probably have a friend like that somewhere. And she never fails to brighten my day when I run into her. No matter what else might be going on in my life, maybe it was a flat tire in the morning, it wasn't going so well, or maybe the doctor put me on another one of my special diets. And I feel suddenly, though, at that moment, like a prince among princes, and someone important and someone wanted. The small acts of kindness work big in the heart. And whether you're greeting a friend or a loved one, whether you're teaching a class or creating a national advertising campaign or rebranding a worldwide global product, you have an opportunity to affect change, every one of you, sitting out there this morning. Someone is paying attention. Somebody is paying attention to it. Somebody's making notes. Somebody's hatching a plan. Always be aware of that. Be ever mindful to it. And you have plenty of time is a secret in this. And opportunities to affect change and to make a difference. Actually, each year you have 8,165 hours. That's how much time you have in every year. How you use that time becomes the question. If you sleep 8 hours a day and you work an 8-hour day, not that anybody here probably does that, but if you were to do that, you would spend about 3,800 hours of that time. So that leaves you a little bit of time left over. But you can use those small moments in time by, if you would, by leading through perhaps a sense of imagination and by realizing your own significance in this world and finding something to dedicate yourself to that really is bigger than you are. I find that for me, it's educating future designers and creative people who will change the world on their terms. On their terms, that's key. And there's an old saying, if you ever go in my office, actually, typically there's apples in there. And there's a reason those apples are there. They're there to feed people, but you can, there's an old saying that you can count the seeds in an apple, but can you count the apples in the seeds? I love teaching for its capacity to produce endless fruit. Because if you plant those little seeds, they'll grow all over the planet. And for these young designers that I teach and I'm with, The significance could be something different. It could be creating smart, sustainable packaging. It could be developing ways to get clean water to families in rural areas. Or maybe it's maintaining a blog that's about motherhood and children's fashion. For you in the audience, it could be something totally different. But there's opportunity there. You know, our days should really be, that you spend, should really be a celebration of different inspirations. 365 days in a year of paying attention to the extraordinary within the ordinary things in our lives. The extraordinary within the ordinary things of our lives. Those little small things that sit right in front of you, and which are usually the things that drive what we do and who we become. And so, for example, by trade, designers and creative people, we're the makers of things. That's what you do in this room. You're the maker of things. Unfortunately, we get into ruts and create these things by rote. We forget sometimes to think different, to think stupid, and to believe in what we do. We stop taking risk and trying to learn. We lose sight of the fact that other people are watching, that what we do really matters. And if you consider, perhaps, design as I do, design as a verb, and that the doing is a catalyst, really, which might offer substantive content to human relationships, and if you do that, think of design as a verb, then it applies to everyone who's building a life, a career, building a family. But if you insist on thinking of design as a noun, then design is a plan. It's not a job or an object or something to check off. Live that plan in each, if you can, and when you go to work today, in each and every project you work on, and in the spaces in between those projects. Make it a goal, this is a key really to it, is make it a goal to create something every day. If you want to find happiness, make it a goal to create something every day and make something special. Make something really special. Even if you get up in the morning and it's just your breakfast, make it special. Maybe it's homemade banana bread this morning in lieu of cornflakes. And tell stories. Tell stories. Those little events, stories, that's what they are. They're little events that equal change in our lives. And ask other people about theirs. Try to make, in those stories, make everything personal. It cannot be, and the stories cannot be personal enough. Think about that just in the context of what you're going to do the rest of the day when you go back to your office or wherever you work, and could you do that? Because if your work becomes an extension ultimately of yourself and of who you are, and if it houses your passion, and that's the key, all those hours in that day and in that year are going to fly by. When your work feels like home, that's the best place. There's nothing like it. I've said to this many students over the years is follow your heart. You'll always make the best decision when you do, even if it takes you into some really dark and mysterious places. Just follow it anyway. And so don't be afraid of conflict. It's unsettling, assuredly, and it unsettles us. And ultimately, though, what it really does, conflict does, is it creates change. Conflict is powerful and it's magic. And when I walked into my office, that sticky note morning, I was taken back, and I was even shaken a little. But I was changed by the experience, and that's the key. The students who played the trick on me, who took advantage of the opportunity of my being away, who managed somehow to get access to my office and enter the room without even getting caught, and surprised themselves. They surprised themselves by their own courage and wit is what they did. And I can't tell you how important it is to be brave. And now they sort of become a legend amongst their peers by virtue of it. And you can too. Every day, do something, find time to surprise yourself. And understand your ability to influence. And you sit in that audience right now, understand that when you go back to your office today in particular, because you can get caught in that rut if you aren't careful. Be honest and be authentic. Create conflict. Your life and the lives of the people that you touch by virtue of it will be so much richer for it. What defines the business and the industry that you guys have all chosen in this creative world that we are? And the mission is never to lose sight, perhaps, that the task at hand is not to avoid failure at all cost, but to give triumph a chance in the process. That said, I'd like to share, because I'm lucky I have you all in the room this morning. I'd like to share a quote that doesn't really fit on one of those sticky notes, but it's one of my favorite quotes from a writer by the name of Marianne Williamson, who wrote a book some years ago called A Course of Miracles. And because I believe that the passage out of that book is so true and relevant to everyone in the room today. And maybe something in it will touch you, or you will see yourself in it. I really can't pass up the chance, in all honesty, to share it with so many creatives all in here at once. And our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? But actually, who are you not to be? Each of you is a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine, as children do. We're born to manifest the glory of God that's within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everybody. It's in everybody in this room, is the cool thing. And as we kind of let our own light shine in that process, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. Ultimately, as we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. And that's what I mean by be brave. So I'm going to keep this short this morning, actually. I'm going to say thanks for having me here this morning and for letting me share these remarks with you, and especially for coming out so cold, because it is cold outside. And but what I really hope is that some of the things in this presentation, that when you finish your coffee this morning, that you will, and you head into your day, that you will take them with you and you will think about them. I mean, there was a lot going over, because the true object of human life is play, and the work in front of us is the rest of our lives, whatever that might be. So, thank you. Have a great day. Yeah. You know, I never planned to be doing what I'm doing. So I came into it ignorant. And I didn't even know what a syllabus was when I started out teaching. And so I came as a designer into education, backwards. And it's been an anomaly for sure. And I was in New York 2 years ago to get this award up at New York Art Directors Club called the Grand Masters Teachers Award, which they give to 4 people in the United States. And I had to say in that presentation that I was the most unlikely, probably the most unworthy person to be receiving that award, because I didn't have, I have a good academic background, but I didn't have the academic background that some of the other individuals did that were receiving that award. And I think it's I ran into Milton Glaser on a weekend in Philadelphia, and I was sequestered with him. And Glazer really is the guy that I think even 10 years before I ever walked into a classroom really convinced me that teaching was a very worthy endeavor. I always thought it was relatively benevolent in the beginning, and I really wanted nothing to do with it. So in the beginning. And then I realized that you could, as in the example of those little apples, that you could change a whole lot of things on this planet from that perspective. So every day I wake up, I hope that my ethos is in the right place, because obviously I'm going to be affecting the lives of a lot of people. I see a lot of these people, you know, even sitting in this room that I've been around. And so, and that's just the point of those little yellow stickies. And, but the cool thing about those little yellow stickies now is the person that did that now owns every bit of that. What they ultimately do with it is what they do with it. And I think that's really what you do when you walk out that way, is you own opportunity. You got to go do something with it. I don't know if that totally answered your question, and before I get to another question, one thing I want to say that I always like to say at presentations, it really wasn't a way to work it into the speech, is I always like to give you a recommendation of a couple books I think that are good to take away. And one of the books that I just finished reading, I just have to tell you, is an amazing book by Dan Pink, who wrote a couple years ago. This one is on, and this one probably, I'm not trying to promote Dan Pink. I'm just telling you good books. This one is about selling, but it's about a very different perspective on selling than you probably have ever heard in your life. And so Dan Pink wrote a book that really caught my attention a few years ago. There's still a great book called A Whole New Mind. And it really talks about the business world, and it's not about design, but it's all about design. Another book that I found absolutely fascinating is a little book called Microscripts, and it's a fascinating little book. It's by the Swiss writer Robert Walser, but it's been redone, and Walser's been gone from the earth for a while, since 1956. But it was amazing what he did in his writings, and Maria Kalman, the illustrator, has redone this little book, and I highly recommend these little books. It's a great way, of a different way to look at things sometimes, and just for those that, you know, the ideal of aesthetics that we talk so much about, and through in the context of design or advertising, or whatever it is you do, it's creatively in there. You know, I think it's always that the aesthetics is the understanding of truth and beauty, and just simply laid out. And I think another book that I share with you that I just got the other day. I think it's a fabulous book. It's a book that it's nothing like these books that I recommend, but it's called, if you want to see a beautiful book, this is a beautiful book, if you like beautiful books. And it's called America's Other Audubon. And so if you just want to see something that is beautiful, I'd love to see, we need beauty in our lives every day, we need it. And we can't exist really without it. And I find that creative people, that's the spark where everybody always starts from, somehow. Yeah, I think it is, probably. And if you're around me, I mean, I can't see them up on my head up there, but I think there's something that I always say to people, and a couple of things, that often we listen, but we just don't hear. Often we look, but we just don't see. And it's something I've said for a long time, because I think it's the job of the artist to see. And so you have to look. And if you look, you usually will find that whatever the problem is you're associating with, that the solution to the problem lies within the problem. But typically we just don't look close enough. Rather, we go out externally. We get online. We try to find our answers on Wikipedia. We go to a book and we try to find the answer in the book. The answer's never there, never there. And so I think that's one. And I think one that I've always sort of committed is that and honestly, I mean this so sincerely in here to everybody in this room, that if you can think it, you can do it. It is, if you can think it, you can do it. But and I've seen so many people over time get over obstacles that they never thought they could do in their lives. And if you'll just take that chance and you'll be brave and you'll articulate and define a voice for yourself, then and let that go and let that go out and articulate and resonate, you'll be amazed. I mean, the world has never needed ideas like it needs ideas now. I should say, beyond just teaching in the classroom, I'm also involved in a lot of things in business out there, and so I get inside of a lot of businesses, and I see what's going on in a lot of the world, and the inner workings of a lot of everything from the fashion industry. We were just talking about Coca-Cola. I was just over at Coke in the corporate suites the other day, and so I get a chance that other people don't to see sometimes a little bit. And I know this. I know the key to it is bring your ideas to the table, get a voice, put them out there. Somebody's going to listen to them. Somebody's paying attention. I think you make the actual point that happiness is personal, and it can't be personal enough probably, but probably something plus nothing equals everything is happiness. And something plus nothing equals everything. And you're going to have to think about that one a little bit. And it does great. I mean, there's a bunch of folks I know that I've had under my tutelage for a long time sitting in this room, and they're doing really great. And I think Atlanta is a wonderful place. I mean, obviously, I'm here. I don't really, and I don't see, I mean, I travel around the country a lot, and I see places, I mean, you can be happy anywhere you plant your feet today, and I mean, you know, the industry has changed over time, and I mean, I don't know how much of this you want to hear, but the industry has changed over time, and it used to be you could draw a line from New York to Chicago to Los Angeles, and those were your three main corridors and of business. And then you had secondary and tertiary business that floated around all the other cities and different media markets, however you defined them. Well, you tell me, how do you get your music today? iTunes. So there's really no need for all that entertainment function that was built up in Los Angeles anymore. So it's changing things, and it's changing things quick, as you know. And so, you know, the pastimes are the pastimes. And so, and I think it's great, but that means there's opportunity everywhere. I mean, I think is the key. There is some fabulous talent in this city. It's absolutely fabulous talent, and I think it's a very strong city that way if you try to compare it this way or that way.
All right, let's give a round of applause for me.
Okay.